Hey everybody, welcome. February, March layout update time here. So back in January, if you caught that update, you know that I threw in a bunch of aspen trees between milepost 45.2 and 46.15. Ended up putting in just shy of 120 trees. Now, the plan was to build a whole whack more and continue on up the hill. So what we're going to do is we're going to follow this coal train, which happens to be the last train running over the layout for a while, and we'll get at that a little later on. But let's follow this coal train up the hill beyond 46.15 up to milepost 50, and I want to show you what the plan is, and I'm also going to discuss why the plan didn't work out yet but will in the future. So I like building my trees outside, my aspen trees, because fire is involved. And if you haven't seen the video on making them, I'll put a link at the end. You can click on that and see how I make these things. The plan was to get outside, make a whole whack of these things, and continue planting aspen trees in essentially my 65-foot long shadow box between 45.2 and milepost 50. However, Mother Nature didn't think that was a great idea and dumped a whole whack of snow on us and plunged us into some minus 20 weather. So needless to say, I did not want to be outside during all of that. Now you can see here as we climb up through Drawbar Alley and up towards the east switch at Burmis that there's lots of areas where yellow trees are going to really bring things out and add to the scene. And I specifically left spaces in the scenery knowing that there was going to be aspen trees planted up here. Now initially I thought about 300 trees would be the magic number that would be needed for the area. However, considering the density used between 45.2 and 46.15, I think I'm going to spin up 500 and see where that gets me. Now between Drawbar Alley and the top of the 1.85% climate milepost 47.2, just shy of the Highway 507 road crossing, the layout's only 10 inches wide, so there's not going to be a pile of trees required here. However, after the highway and the big sweeping left turn, the layout bumps out to about 16 inches as the tracks approach the east switch at Burmis. Now you can see here that this area is really sparse for trees. I'd like to say that that was done on purpose because I knew I was going to put aspens in. However, that's not the case. My wife likes to say I suffer from something she calls OAS, overhead aircraft syndrome. That's when an aircraft flies over the house and I go running outside to see what it is and forget completely about what I was doing. That's what happened here 2 years ago. Now Burmis is a really picturesque wide valley tucked between mountains on the east side of Crow's Nest Pass. In addition to the Crow's Nest River flowing through here, there's lots of lakes, ponds, and marshes. And I'm trying to depict that here. Because of the nature of the valley, there's also a preponderance of aspens, and this is where the bulk of the trees are going to end up, as the tracks make a 180-degree turn around the end of the peninsula. We're now approaching the Burmis crossovers, about halfway through the Burmis siding. Now back in the 2021 layout tour video, I mentioned that I was unhappy with the layout directly below the Burmis crossovers. I didn't like the way the layout was lit, and access to the upper level wasn't that great. So with the weather keeping me from making trees, boredom set in. That, combined with my wife leaving me unattended for an afternoon, set up the perfect scenario for something drastic to happen to the layout. Now it would have been relatively easy to just relocate the main line, but as mentioned, I had an access problem on the upper level. And the reason that that's an issue is because the Burmis crossovers is the location where pushers cut out of the middle of trains after they help them up the 1.85% grade from Cowley. So here's the plan. The area affected is milepost 40.5 to approximately 41.25. So pretty close to 3/4 of a scale mile in my world that has to be replaced. Now, of course, we're going to get that roadbed stuffed underneath here so it gets lit properly. The other problem that I mentioned, though, was when the layout was out here, it was 2 feet from the upper level fascia to the bottom level fascia. There was 24 inches here, okay? So that made it kind of a pain in the butt to reach over to uncouple equipment. So I'm going to take and I'm going to modify the benchwork, get everything moved back here so the lower level is flush with the upper level. That's going to require some engineering because we've got cabinetry underneath here that has to be moved or modified. And when I built this section here, This was put on specific support so I could stash bikes underneath here. I got a whole whack of bikes that get stashed underneath here. So as a result, the whole upper deck is free supported off of the lower deck. So when I do all this, I have to make sure that I maintain the proper structural support on this deck. Otherwise, we're going to get a sag, and that's going to be no good for the finished product. So with a few days of demolition, some hacking and chopping, repositioning of cabinetry and layout supports, some quick reconstruction, I got the benchwork put back together, and I'm now ready to install risers and roadbed. And as you can see here, that those few days have really paid off. No more issues with lighting on the lower level, and we've got all the access we could ask for up above. In fact, it's going to be a piece of cake to get pushers cut out of the middle of trains up here at the Burmis crossover. Now, the area below between Cowley and Burmis would be known as Lundbreck. Over on the members side of the channel, I'm doing a multi-part series called the Lundbreck Realignment, and that's going to walk you through the stages from demolition to reconstruction, track laying, wiring, right up until the finished scenery product. So if you're interested in following along, consider becoming a channel member and hit that join button. With that project well underway, let's get back up to our coal train and watch it as it ticks off the last mile and a bit between the Burmis crossover and the Highway 3 underpass. Now this section of layout pinches back down to 10 inches again before the tracks cross the Crow's Nest River and rattle over the West Switch at Burmis. And with only 10 inches of space and 2 tracks, there's not a whole pile of room for extra aspen trees. I am, however, going to use those aspen trees to frame the 2 bridges over the Crow's Nest, as well as bring attention to Highway 3. So with decent weather right around the corner, the plan is to build up a good supply of trees. So if while working on the bottom level, boredom sets in or a plane flies over, I can come up to the upper level and throw a splash of color here and there. Because we know what can happen if I'm bored, distracted, or left unattended. Anyway, gang, that's it for this one. Thanks so much for watching. If you liked the video, hit the like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and we'll see you in the next one.